You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Air conditioning. It's hard to imagine your life without it. As the world heats up, the need to cool down is ever increasing. Places that never needed air conditioning before are seeing growing requirements for it now. The planetary impacts of this demand, eye-watering. Hello and welcome to Climate Conversations. I'm Jack Board. Hello to you, Liling Tan. How are you? Where are you? Are you chilling right now?
Hi, Jack. I'm actually in central France and working remotely.
Ooh la la.
Ooh la la. And no, not quite chilling right now. Weather is getting hotter. And at the time of this recording, we're bracing for high temperatures this week, possibly a heat wave. And I'm sure you know this. France and much of Europe don't really have air conditioning. So,
Yikes.
we don't have them in most homes and not in most shops. So it can get pretty unbearable here when the weather gets like this. I might pop into a supermarket just to cool down later along the yogurt aisle.
That's a good option. Yeah, Europe in August is brutal, isn't it?
Brutal. And the options we have are not like in Singapore or Bangkok. And I don't want to shame you, Jack, but exactly how many AC units do you have in your place in Bangkok?
Yes, we do have ample air conditioning in these parts of the world typically. I'm living in just a small townhouse and I have 7 air conditioners inside. Yeah.
No. How is that possible? What kind of a mansion of a townhouse? How many
It's
floors?
not a big place. It's not a big place, but it is accessorized with air conditioning units. Not my design. I just moved in here and that's how many.
So what is it, like an air conditioner in each room and each bathroom and in the closet?
Pretty much, yeah. You imagine it, there's some air conditioning that can reach.
Oh, good grief.
And still it's hot in here. There's a bit of a heat wave going on in Bangkok too. Still sweltering a little bit inside.
Everywhere.
Got to watch that power bill.
I know, right?
We can't just turn them all on.
No.
Okay, let's get into the quiz for this week. Air conditioning themed, of course. Liling, I want to know roughly what percentage of global greenhouse gas emissions are caused solely by air conditioning. And this includes the electricity used as well as the refrigerants. Multiple choice for you today, so it shouldn't be too tricky. A, about 1%, which is about the same as all of the world's data centers. B, 1.5%, that's about the same as all of the world's rice cultivation. C is about 2%, that's about the same as all of the world's global aviation. And D, 3 to 4%, that's about the same as all of the world's oil and gas extraction. Now, given how useful this knowledge is to prime our chat today as well, I want to have your musings right now and your answer as well. We're breaking the norms here this week.
I'm going to go with the highest option, 3 to 4%, option D. And I also think it's set to double by mid-century, right?
You may have read ahead this week. That is correct. Yeah, wow. 3 to 4%, which is a staggering number. Well done to you. A good start. Now it's time for our main story this week. Air conditioning can give us daily relief. You know it. It can help us sleep, help us work, relax, cool down after hours spent outdoors. It can also be life-saving. By one report, air conditioning prevented almost 200,000 premature deaths in 2019. And the world has only gotten hotter since then. What that means is demand for air conditioning is sure to increase. One reason, of course, is climate change, leading more people to be exposed to dangerous heat waves, and people, out of necessity, finding ways to cool down. The other main driver, increasing wealth. All over the world, more people are starting to be able to afford AC. How many aircon units do you think there are in the world, Liling, based on 2024 numbers?
I think you're going to tell me there's a lot. Educate me.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's about 2 billion air
Wow.
conditioning units. Also kind of staggering, in my opinion, anyway. 2 billion of them.
And yet, so many people still don't have access to air conditioners, right? Just think how many countries there are that are really hot, where literally everyone can have and use air conditioning if it was affordable, but it isn't. There are big social inequalities that exist around the issue. In Singapore, right? An advanced economy, about 80% of people have air conditioning at home. And it sounds like in Bangkok, too, there are quite a bit. And compare that to countries like Indonesia or India, huge populations in need of AC and without them. I think in India, that number is about 20% of households. Indonesia, I believe, is something similar. And most of these are in urban centers. In rural areas, that number is much, much lower.
Yeah. That's right. It's hard to get a clear picture of some of this as well, but obviously wealthier people in cities are having better access, and you have these social inequalities, not just from country to country, but within countries as well. People on the fringes just cannot afford. So let's talk projections. I already mentioned that 2 billion figure. Now, according to the International Energy Agency, it's a number that could almost triple to 5.5 billion units by 2050.
Whoa.
That's the equivalent of 10 new AC units per second.
Per second.
Over the next 3 decades.
How many babies are there born a second?
I guess more than that, but yeah.
10 units
I don't know.
a second, that's a lot.
We're pumping them out. Now, global ownership of air conditioners is also expected to go up from about 37% globally today to over 45% just by 2030. And still, there'd be many more people left who would need it potentially. So if the units got even cheaper, easier to access and install, that number could rise even faster and higher than that. So for me, it's also super interesting to look at the breakdown of these projections by geography.
Right. And when we talk about geography, a big part of that is because of warming temperatures too that affect different regions differently. It's not just about affordability, right? There are regions like where I am in Europe, where temperatures historically were not this high. So as it gets hotter to the point of being life-threatening, demand for ACs will go up as well. So we're seeing this in both developing and developed or wealthier countries.
Yeah, so let's look at 2050. The projections are that there could be close to 1.5 billion air conditioning units in China alone. In India, the number is 1.14 billion, 266 million in Japan, and South Korea, 236 million in Indonesia. So that's Asia actually accounting for a lot of demand for cool air.
Another factor that makes sense, of course, is this growth in developing Asia in particular that's driving this demand, that's driving this future projected demand. But the growth is happening everywhere nearly, right? In Europe, in Africa, and the Middle East as well.
So that then brings us to the impacts, which are real, which are rising. And you already had a good guess before about the percentage of emissions from AC.
That's because we covered the story in TV. But
yeah. Right. It was inherent knowledge that you had.
Yes, it is.
You hadn't read the notes.
No, not at all.
It was 3 to 4%, very high amount. And currently, they also use about 7% of the world's electricity too, which is a very high amount also. Then there's the, drum roll, hydrofluorocarbons, sometimes referred to as HFCs among the cool science kids. It's basically the coolants. It's coolants used in the AC units. So when they escape into the atmosphere, they can absorb between 150 to 5,000 times more solar energy than CO2. So that's also causing severe global warming effects.
And this is where I say, whoa, hold up, Jack. Cooling is actually heating. Now, we're cooling ourselves, but heating...
Mind's blown.
We're cooling ourselves, but heating everywhere else up and everything else up, right? Sometimes you might hear the term urban heat island effect. The influence of air conditioning is a major contributor to this phenomenon. Now, cities are already heating up at twice the global average. The urban heat island effect is when a city is basically experiencing higher air temperatures than the surrounding areas, and it's due to energy from people, cars, trains, buildings, buildings, etc. And there's just so much concrete and asphalt in cities that have replaced the natural landscape over many years that it locks that heat in.
Yeah, exactly. So what's happening is those roads, those buildings, the concrete infrastructure is absorbing solar radiation during the day, and it releases it slowly at night, which causes this increase in temperature.
Right. And we all know that ACs too are expelling hot air to make cool air. At nighttime, this can have really profound impacts on ambient temperature, which can rise by a whole degree because of the heat locked in cities. Now, Singapore can experience up to 7 degrees increases in urban heat because of this too, compared to forested areas.
Wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. 7 degrees, right? And if we consider the rising number of people moving to cities, general urbanization trends, and the rising heat, that all washes out to 1.6 billion people exposed to 35 plus degree summertime temperatures by 2050. And don't forget, that's just 25 years from now.
Yeah. And the impacts most particularly affect women and the elderly and the very young too. So the most vulnerable members of our society.
Right. And they will have to have air conditioning or some kind of alternative to just function, to survive. So it's not like we can opt right out of ACs, even if it's making things hotter. The rising temperatures make air conditioning a matter of survival.
Yeah. So what are the solutions? We always try to come back to that at the end. There are a few. I think one is more efficient design. So there are major differences in performance between the top ACs on the market versus the cheap ones. So what if you could make units twice as efficient as they are now? You're effectively allowing their numbers to double without increasing the impact. And already some units are incredibly efficient. It's just allowing that technology to trickle down, become mainstream and affordable. And there could be levers that governments could pull here with taxes or incentives or energy efficiency standards and labeling. And then there's also cleaning up our energy system. If all of the power being used to operate air conditioners was from non-emitting sources, that does go a long way to cutting out a considerable polluting element of them anyway.
That's right. The faster we transition to clean energy and clean electricity, the less damaging air conditioning can be.
Yeah, at least in terms of emissions. Now, overuse is also a big issue, especially in developed nations that are highly used to having air conditioning. It does increase reliance on it. It reduces people's ability to adapt to heat. So we just simply become less resilient all these hours that sit inside air-conditioned rooms.
And surely, Jack, the answer we're striving for now can't be just to install more air conditioning, right? We spoke about this a few times before, but redesigning urban spaces to be naturally cooler is important. Designing buildings and rooms for better airflow as well. And the bulk of the world's people now live in cities, but urban design has been no match for soaring temperatures. There are also options like increased ratios for green spaces and natural airflow, shaded walkways, surfaces and windows that reflect instead of absorb solar glare. We've done some reporting on like paint that actually does that. And you can also retrofit buildings to some extent too. I think a lot of the answers are not repeating design mistakes of the past while also evolving with the times. If city planners can focus on that, not just solely on more air conditioning, I think we could get somewhere.
Yeah, I still remember this it's like a classic line I heard from a professor who I interviewed about this issue a few years ago. He said that air conditioning is like you're getting fatter, but instead of going on a diet, you just buy larger pants. So I think something to keep in mind as we all work out how to stay cool on this very hot planet. And right now, I only have one of my air conditioners on. So not guilty.
I have zero. Just saying.
Do you have one available to you?
No, I'm in France. There are no ACs. I told you I have to go to the supermarket to cool off along the dairy or yogurt aisle. No, we have no air conditioning here.
I've got some to spare if you're in need. Okay, that's all for this week. We will be right back here next Thursday. Thanks as always for listening.
Do join us again next week. You know where to find us on our CNA website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the socials. I'm Liling Tan. Bye for now.
I'm Jack Board. Our thanks to the team that produced this episode: Saye Win, Tiffany Ung, Janani Jahari, Pei Ning Ho, and Nat Fetelvero.